Last year, AI in banking was mostly pilots and proof. This year, the words have changed. Deploy, integrate, measure. We're talking agentic AI, autonomous commerce, and real ROI with Google Cloud's Toby Brown. Welcome, Toby, to the FinTech Talk Show.
Thank you, Patty. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So before we get into some of the things Google's doing in AI and agentic commerce, a little bit about you, Toby, so that listeners know about you.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. So I lead our regulated industries team at Google Cloud. The largest industry in that patch is, of course, financial services. And we really think about how to use the power of Google technology to solve industry specific challenges. I happen to come from financial services as well. So I spent 20 plus years working in the industry before coming to Google Cloud almost 4 years ago. So it's a privilege to be able to work at Google and to be able to help talk to the industry about what we're doing to help use our technology to help them transform.
Yeah, I'm sure they kind of just leverage your experience and benefit from your vast experience in financial services. Thank you for that, Toby. And I know the big event, Money 2020, is coming up in Vegas, and you are going to be speaking on behalf of Google along with other Googlers. What are some of the big headlines for AI in financial services at Money 2020 this year?
Yeah, we're super excited about Money 2020. Obviously, one of the big premier, conferences in the industry. And you always get a great pulse just on kind of what's top of mind for everyone and where things are at in terms of deployment and adoption in the industry. This year, of course, I think will be no exception. So, what I'm expecting to be top of mind, three key things I'd call out. First, you already mentioned at the top of the call, of course, everyone focused on agents and specifically around agentic commerce. And as it intersects with money, right, it's really about money movement, right? So, how are we increasingly using AI to facilitate money movement? And that has different connotations across the different segments and verticals of financial services. But I expect a ton of discussion and focus on that topic. The second thing I would say is goes hand in glove with that, and that's around how you're doing this in a secure way. So, of course, going back to my scope, really focused on regulated industries, a huge topic is always around the latest and greatest on risk and governance and security, and how we're continuing to forge that path so that this technology can be deployed in a way that fits within the risk appetite of a regulated industry. And then thirdly, I also expect a lot of focus on how the industry is really using AI to transform kind of the future of financial advice and guidance. I think that historically it's a space that's been pretty static and flat as an industry in terms of things being kind of text and chart based. And I think people are looking at the amazing multimodal capabilities of generative models like Gemini and thinking about how that can really improve engagement and lead to, of course, deeper relationships with their customers, and also in a way that really helps improve outcomes for their customers as well. So I think that's a super interesting space and one that I'm really looking forward to talking about as well.
Wow, so full breadth from payments to wealth or advising, and of course kind of the underlying risk and compliance. So that's a the big big chunk of things are getting impacted by AI. But in terms of what's working today, what's beyond the pilot scope and in production, can you speak to that a little bit, Toby?
Yeah, it's timely because we actually just went through a big benchmarking survey. We had an independent agency go out and survey several hundred CXOs globally in financial services to get exactly at that point, which is for AI, like, to what extent are you actually deploying the technology? Where you are deploying the technology, where are you seeing positive ROI? And where you're seeing positive ROI, what's really the big success drivers of that? Um, and Patty, I think we've seen a lot recently of we've seen the media narrative kind of shift a little bit. I think over the past few months, where there's been more skepticism in the media around the business value that's actually being generated. And I think people are starting to question that a little bit. And so I wasn't sure, frankly, what I'd see come through in this survey, and if it was going to be something that kind of reflected that shift in sentiment, or if it was going to be something that was more in line with what I see and hear every day when I'm working with financial services customers around the world, which is that they are making real progress, that we're building the muscle, that we're learning what it takes to operationalize and scale the technology. And excitedly, what came back was really the latter, right? It was that we are seeing broad adoption globally in the industry. We are seeing continued use case expansion. We are seeing positive ROI. And so I'll give you a couple data points that kind of shone through on that to bring that to life a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When we asked specifically around ROI and where are you seeing it, uh, a couple of use cases jumped to the top. One was individual productivity. I think no surprise there, right? One of the kind of the low-hanging fruit, particularly in a regulated industry, right, where everything is risk-based. Financial services is risk management at the heart of it. Approach everything in that industry through a risk-based lens. And so, of course, you're going to start with lower risk, internal-facing use cases. And sure enough, that's what we saw come through. And these are things like, of course, developer productivity, right? So how you're using generative AI and agents now to improve the way that you develop software. It's also things just around knowledge management and information retrieval. How are you getting insight and signal to your employees' fingertips more quickly? A second thing was really around customer service, which again, another, I think, top of mind use case and for generative AI. So everyone thinking about how can I use agents to tackle initially all the more simple, easy interaction types that you have with all of your human assisted across all of your human assisted channels today. And this is really a continuation of the journey we've been on a long time in financial services, right? Using chatbots of old to or an IVR systems to handle a lot of those simple interactions that used to go on in teller lines or in contact centers. And this is the next frontier of that because you can use the human-like capability of generative AI to go after way more complex interaction types and to do that in a way that provides a better customer experience and obviously is more cost effective for the financial institution. And we expect to see that focus continue and then to evolve over time to get to digital sales, which is really what everyone's looking to from a growth perspective. And then the last one was marketing. That was the third highest use case on the survey results.
Mm-hmm.
Another, I think, default top of mind product market fit use case for generative AI. And I think financial services no exception. So we actually just announced a partnership with Klarna on this front, where they're using Gemini and our generative models to create way more personalized creative concepts. And they saw that it boosted the time spent in their app by 15%. It increased orders by 50%. So they saw real bottom line value in a very short amount of time. And so we expect to continue to see that scale as well.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. So listening to your three areas, it's both front, middle, and back office. So it looks like AI is proliferating within the enterprise across the board and in different functions.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think to my earlier point, we started inward focused on that low hanging fruit and the lower risk use cases, and then now we really see that expansion, and we've been moving more towards customer facing, growth oriented use cases, and certainly everyone's really excited about that.
Yeah. And it's kind of functionally your AI's aiding, and I know we have the spectrum of copilot to an agentic to a fully autonomous. So where do you see the biggest bang in financial services on that spectrum where things will be more autonomous? So we're looking at autonomous finance. You talked about advising, for example. So almost some agentic or AI agent is managing somebody's portfolio kind of autonomously based on the needs that they understand. That's kind of maybe a target state. But which areas are you looking or do you see that we're ready for autonomous finance?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for autonomous finance, you look at a space like agentic commerce, and I feel like for low value transactions, simple transactions, you're absolutely going to increasingly see that handled in an autonomous way. And innovation like our AP2 protocol is really helping forge that path, right? In the partnership with PayPal, where we're saying we're giving you uh, a protocol and the tooling to ensure that you have visibility and verifiable lineage around what happens, who does it, and that it's permissioned and secure. And so I think as that continues to take hold, and continues to proliferate around the industry, it's going to continue to scale, of course, the volume of autonomous interactions that happen along with that. I think, of course, you move up that value chain into more complex transactions and higher value denominations, then of course you're going to want more friction in that process and a human in the loop where it's appropriate, so that you can make sure that you don't trip any risk and security wires as part of that. But I think near term, that low hanging fruit around agentic commerce definitely where I expect to see the early focus and the early wins on autonomous finance.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Shifting gears a little bit, and I think you briefly alluded that different segments are using AI. And if you kind of get to the consumer segments and the merchant and talk about agentic commerce and maybe combine it with stablecoins, it's separate, but kind of that they are interrelated or some of it helps each other. So what I see in the industry, and you made some news, or Google made some news with some partnerships, and I think you're planning to probably make some more news at Money 2020 around this, based on the agenda that I reviewed. We're moving from assistive chat to agentic commerce, autonomous shopping and payments and anticipatory flows, even agent to agent settlement. So, what's Google and Google's cloud's role here?
Yeah, so you look broadly at the set of services and products that we have just in that space of commerce, uh, payments, and of course infrastructure and AI from the cloud side. Right? It's a really unique breadth of products and services that we're bringing to the market. And what we're really saying is that we're really focused on providing for the market is this open, interoperable ecosystem that still allows choice for the customer, the consumer, or the merchant, and allows them to securely interact across all the different stakeholders in the ecosystem that are required to, securely, verifiably transact in a commerce space. And I think that's been the biggest focus. So we started with, uh, our agent to agent protocol that we announced, developed, and then subsequently open sourced with a huge partner ecosystem around it, several months ago. And that's really to facilitate, of course, all the different communication that needs to happen between all the different agents as you move across different channels to conduct a transaction. And then lately, as I mentioned earlier, of course, we developed this agentic payments protocol that then once you want to transact, you now have the tooling to do that transaction securely and in a way that's verifiable for all the parties. And so those are like the core two innovations I think that we've really put out into the market that are helping, again, build that open ecosystem and support that interoperability that we know is so critical to success. And then from the cloud AI side, of course, we're giving people lots of different services and tooling to help provide both the core foundation models as well as the agents themselves to then navigate and manage that whole ecosystem, right? So whether it's a consumer customer that is using their Gemini app to help purchase tickets for a concert, whether it's a merchant who is looking to uh, you know promote a specific product offering in a specific channel based on their read of the market, whether it's a large commercial bank that is looking to transform the way that they are doing money movement globally. We're really focused on across all the segments and verticals, giving people a enterprise ready AI platform that helps them securely do business in an AI first world.
Awesome. And so you're laying the foundation of how agentic or AI commerce will happen with the A2A or agent to agent protocol and agentic payments kind of framework. And you're doing this with partners. You're just not doing it in isolation. So talk a little bit about that, Toby.
Yeah, 100%. So we know that partners are absolutely essential to any of this being successful and working. So that's why if you look at both our A2A launch, you look at our Agentic Payments Protocol launch, you can see all the vast range of partners that we have that were part of those initial launches, right? So you look at Agentic Payments Protocol, we had all the um, notable payments platforms like PayPal that were part of that launch. We had all the leading payments card providers like American Express. We had tons of different leading merchants that were part of that, like Etsy, etc. We really looked across the full ecosystem and who were the top, providers or players in each space, and made sure that we had that lined up as part of the launch, because otherwise we know that it doesn't go anywhere. So we see that robust partner ecosystem is absolutely fundamental to being able to successfully, deploy this technology, and we've been laser focused on that as part of each launch.
Very good, very good. So just trying to paint this picture. So in tomorrow's commerce, they could be merchants, retailers, Etsy, or any of the PayPal merchants, for example. And the consumer obviously could have a Google Wallet or a PayPal wallet, and it could be proxied by an agent. So a consumer agent will talk to a merchant agent, and commerce will happen in a trusted and secure way. And under the covers, it would be Google's or the Google community's A2A protocol and the Agentic Payments Protocol. Is that, did I get that kind of read right of how you're envisioning this?
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think it kind of plays out differently, I think, across different segments and verticals, right? So you talk about that in like a correspondent banking, like commercial banking context versus a consumer trying to buy something, on Etsy, right? Those are different in terms of how they show up from like a Google services perspective. But yeah, I think that high level, what you said is absolutely the right way to
Cool.
frame it.
And you framed all those different flows, right? And your standards and specifications are covering, so to speak, all those different kind of segments and flows. That's very interesting. So you're laying the groundwork for the next generation of commerce.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've on the infrastructure side, in addition to the AI platform and model and agent piece, we've also done things to support kind of the new infrastructure, the way money is increasingly moved in the world, right? i.e. distributed ledger technology and stable coins. And so we built a universal ledger. We call it the Google Cloud Universal Ledger, right? That capitalizes on our kind of our the performance at scale of our infrastructure that's been proven out across the full, Alphabet product suite with billions and billions of users. It also has unique innovation in it that really optimizes the throughput and the transactions per seconds it can handle in a differentiated way. And we also put a ton of investment into the security and the compliance of that product so that it's fit for financial services. And so we're doing that at the infrastructure layer as well, in addition to the actual AI kind of platform side of it. And we're excited to have some early customer adoption in that space, like for example, CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. It was one of the biggest exchanges in the world, of course. They their use case is focused on real-time payments for settlement and clearing for their options exchange. And so that's enabled them to move from, 24/7 or to move to 24/7 trading from what was 23/6 historically, right? And so they're able now to use their own coin, the CME coin that they have, to now drive a completely different, solution and offering to market for their customers. And it's been really successful for them. And we're seeing a huge pipeline of interest and activity around that.
Very interesting. So we're not just talking consumer commerce and consumer payments. You're working with institutions, the big ones, and enabling them with this modernization. So that's very interesting.
100%. Yeah.
I recently had SVB's Silicon Valley Banks. They published a Future of FinTech report, and we had a recording with them. And one of the things they were talking about was stablecoins and the regulatory or kind of changes in the last few months with Genius Act that ha simplified that whole space. So in the same context of agentic commerce and just AI. Toby, I want to ask you, where do stable coins or how do they fit in? And are they kind of complementary and enabling to this vision you're portraying of the next generation of financial services?
Yeah, I think that path is still being forged, especially on the consumer side and like the commerce side. I think a lot of the early adoption we've seen around stablecoins has been more in uh like the correspondent banking, FX, remittances, like that type of space, I think is where we've really seen it start to scale in production. I think when you look at like domestic payments, that kind of commerce within the United States, right? I think that value proposition is still kind of being proven out and it's a little less clear. I think the Genius Act happening certainly gives a step forward in terms of regulatory clarity, but there's still a lot of detail to flesh out there and figure out. And so I do think that conceptually, it makes sense in terms of you go back to your point around autonomous finance. Uh, of course, you want then the way money moves to be programmable 24/7 and kind of auto executed as well, right? And of course, that's not the way that any of the traditional money rails work. And so I think there is conceptual alignment there in terms of like the fit for purpose for those use cases, but I still think there is a lot to work out to where that really is economical and really that we have the security and risk side of that all figured out as well. So to me, it's still early days on the consumer like commerce side for stable coins, but we do see a lot of scaled adoption, like with CME as an example, around the institutional and like B2B money movement side.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that makes sense. It probably starts there, and it becomes another rail, so to speak, just like ACH and RTP and things like that too, because it is kind of like RTP in terms of latency or time it takes to settle in stable coins. So it makes more sense there initially, but maybe it'll trickle down into some of the consumer workflows as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. So I know we're limited on time. I want to ask you about two or three more things. So I'll kind of combine the question, Toby, and just go pick whichever one you want to respond to. So I think you talked about in the open that risk and compliance, security and fraud detection, all that. That's a big area where AI is playing out, kind of more in the back and the middle office. So kind of shed some light on where are some of the biggest use cases and what are some of the ROIs there. And then the other that's not talked too much about, and I think you alluded to it a little bit with your customer service and marketing examples, but the overall customer or user experience. So AI can obviously hyper personalize consumer experience, customer experience, and user experience. So any of those two you want to take first and give some highlights.
Yeah, I think let me touch on the kind of risk and security space 'cause I think I haven't talked too much about that. And I think obviously it's such a, foundational global priority for financial services. And I do think we're seeing a lot of really cool innovation in that space. We're actually going to have an announcement at Money 2020 um, with one of the leading digital banks in the world around how they're using Google to combat financial crime.
Wow.
And so we're really excited to announce that and launch that. And it's a nice, it's emblematic, I think, of a lot of broader work we see across the industry in terms of you can use the sophisticated reasoning capabilities of like a Gemini to sift through these enormous, sets of data that are structured, unstructured, highly variable, and in near real time, it can really find that needle in the haystack. It can do that anomaly detection. It can look for signal that you otherwise wouldn't ever find. And I think that's starting to be a kind of dominant pattern in how financial institutions are using Gemini to improve the way that they manage risk. So definitely excited about that. You also look at a space like KYC. That's another really hot use case right now. So it's another space where you have, and it spans all segments of the financial services as well, right? It's not just consumer retail banking; it's also commercial banking, et cetera. And it's very manual. Right? So you have again tons of unstructured data, tons of highly variable data sets, and you have hundreds to thousands of employees at these large financial institutions that are taking these all this data, sifting through it, and uh, basically validating, customer identity. And we actually started this work internally with GPay to prove it out, and they were able to do that and basically see real business value. I don't have metrics to share publicly, but I'll just say that the value is clear.
Mhm.
Then we started talking to financial institutions about it and doing the same thing. And so we'll have some public references coming out around that in the coming months as well. But I continue to see another area of obvious product market fit that relates back to that risk space that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you mentioned that you're making some or breaking some news in Money 2020. Can you let us know when or which day? Is it Sunday Night Live or later in the week? Can you give us some guidance for people who are listening or maybe will listen so that they know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be on Monday,
Okay,
October 27th, and it will be at right around midday. I think right around 11:30 or 12 o'clock, 11:40 specifically, a.m. Pacific time.
gotcha. Thank you.
Tune in then. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I know we had to wrap up. Do you want to touch on customer experience or come back for that? I'll give you the
Yeah,
choice. So,
customer experience. Yeah, I'll build on what I said earlier, Patty, which is it is a really interesting and exciting space to me just because I think we've struggled to get people to engage on financial content historically. Like you can tie that back to financial inclusion, financial health, financial empowerment, like pick your favorite kind of, ethos there. But I think we've really struggled as an industry to do that. And I think this will be transformative on that front. So you look at how increasing the world consumes content, right? It's predominantly now short form video. So then you look at how well that ties into a technology like generative AI and like Gemini with our generative models or our multimedia models, and things you can do with VO. Um, and it's really amazing. And then it's not just a video being shown at you, you can interact with this in real time. So we can say, hey, Patty, here's a look at like your financial life over the past day, month, week, year. And then you can start to interact with that. And it might start to really change not only your understanding of your financial life, but also then start to help spawn thinking around how you can improve your financial outcomes, how you can improve your financial well-being. And of course, from a financial institution perspective, you're going to do that with clear calls to action around all that as well, right? So that you're embedding these personalized ways for them to act on that. And I think that's really compelling, both from the industry side as well as from the customer side. And I think you can play that out as well across all of the different segments as well. I won't bore you with the details of that, but I do think that's just really compelling and really interesting. That's a win-win for everyone, and really excited about what Gemini can do for people in that space.
right, indeed. Yeah, it's almost like a 24/7, all on, always on kind of financial advisor at your fingertips.
Exactly. And you look,
Yeah,
every financial institution has, a emerging affluent as a priority segment, or in a commercial context, it's the emerging middle market. And they've really struggled to be able to serve that segment, using employees. And so I think this is going to really transform that. And it's going to give you exactly what you said, right? This always on financial advisor that's helping you improve your financial well-being. And like I said, I think it's a win-win for everyone, and it's really exciting. We have a ton of experimentation with big tier one institutions around the world right now on doing just that.
right. Right. And there is this work in the industry, and I think you briefly touched on that the eventual interface to AI, right? So obviously now it's kind of more conversational, but how there's a lot of work around the industry going on, including at Google, at DeepMind. How will we access this wealth or always on AI? And maybe some of these applications will inform how that needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're really excited about uh, our roadmap in that space, both from the DeepMind side, the Google Cloud side, and the broader Alphabet side, and uh, it's going to be really exciting times.
Great. So, Toby, where can folks find the research and the solution overview? And I know you have making a lot of announcement Money 2020, so definitely attend the Google and Toby's sessions if you are at Money 2020. But where can people find it online?
Yeah, of course, we have our own, financial services dedicated sites online where people can go to check out our full industry, set of industry solutions. If you just Google for the, Google Cloud blog on financial services, you'll find it. You can, of course, always find me on LinkedIn. But honestly, any kind of general keyword search with any of those things will lead you very quickly to our content and our site.
Awesome. Thank you, Toby. Thank you for being on the FinTech Talk Show. And listeners, tell us your number one agentic finance questions for our debrief episode with Google, Toby, and his colleagues coming up next. Thanks, Toby, again for being on the FinTech Talk Show.
Thank you, Patty. Really enjoyed it.